today's ceremony, and thank you for attending. My name is William Carl. I'm the president of the Collier County Veterans Council. We're here to honor our service members and to remember the sacrifices they've made. Let's all honor our fallen heroes and remember their achievements, courage, and dedication, and say thank you. We stand in the midst of patriots and the family and friends of those who have nobly served. I want to extend my heartfelt thanks to those fallen heroes and to the servicemen and women who are all here as well. The service members we honor came from all walks of life, but they shared several fundamental qualities. They possessed courage, pride, determination, selflessness, dedication to duty, and integrity. All the qualities needed to serve a cause larger than oneself. They were ordinary people who responded in extraordinary ways. In extreme times, they rose to the nation's call because they wanted to protect a nation which has given them so much. Millions of Americans have fought and died on the battlefields here and abroad to defend our freedom and way of life. Our troops continue to make the ultimate sacrifices, and even as we lose troops, Americans step forward to say, "I'm ready to serve." They follow in the footsteps of generations of fine Americans. The idea for Memorial Day, originally called Decoration Day, arose from the ashes from the Civil War. Following the Civil War, at least 620,000 Americans, both Union and Confederate, had been killed through the course of war. Although there are different versions on how Memorial Day began, one story goes, the grieving families, both Northern and Southern, began decorating the graves of their lost soldiers with flowers and wreaths. These informal honors led to the first formal Memorial Day observance in Waterloo, New York on May 5th, 1866. Congress officially recognized Memorial Day as a federal holiday in 1887. Since then, each passing year, we have honored our troops. We have awarded medals to many soldiers, added their names to monuments and buildings for them, to honor them for their bravery. But nothing can ever replace the hole left behind from a fallen service member. And no number of medals or ribbons can comfort those left behind. We will see that today with the big patriots that we have over here in this tent. There's a lot of people that are considered the Gold Star mothers. All have lost somebody due to this conflict. I'd like to ask all service members and veterans who are here to please stand. Every one of you, please stand so you can be seen. Every service member. We thank you for answering the call to duty. You have made the armed forces the most respected in the world. Thank you, and have a seat. Now, could right now I get all family members of anyone who served, whether that service member was a grandfather, a grandmother, a mother, a father, a husband, a wife, a son, or a daughter, to also please stand. That should be almost everybody here just about. We know you live through difficult times and often take a heavy load to keep the home fires burning. We thank each and every one of you. Please be seated. Today, people throughout the country will gather together to remember, to honor, and to pay gratitude to those who have served our country. Our gathering is just one small spark in the flame of pride that burns across the nation on every day. It's not a lot, but in one way, a small way, we can honor those who have made the ultimate sacrifice so we can live in freedom. Your presence here today and the people gathered all across America is a tribute to those lost troops and their families. It is a way to say we remember, and we will never forget. From the soldiers who shivered and starved through the winter of Valley Forge, through the doughboys crouched to the muddy trenches of France, to the platoons who patrolled the hazy jungles of Vietnam, to the young men and women patrolling the mountains of Afghanistan, we remember and honor you all. Thank you. Everyone, please stand. Sergeant Frank Kerr, Mass and Post Colors. Marine Corps League, please play tribute to our fallen with a rifle salute. Let's welcome Bree Bear, wife of retired U.S. Army veteran, to sing Amazing Grace.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now am found. Was blind, but now I see. Through many dangers, toils and snares, we already come. 'Twas grace that brought us safe thus far, and grace will lead us home. When we've been there 10,000 years, bright shining as the sun, with numberless days to sing God's praise. Then when we first begun.
For that, Paul!
I would like to welcome Pastor Treglow from the Faith Lutheran Church to lead us with the invocation.
Your turn. Favor. Ready.
O God, today we are here to honor those who have served our country and have given their lives so that we may proudly stand here and still live in freedom. Remembering those who have passed is only half of the task that is before us today. We must also carry their love, honor, and duty forward to the future generations that will pass. Our children must know who they were, what they did, and why they did it. To do anything less will be a disservice to their sacrifice and their memories. Those that are gone created a clear pathway for us to continue on. We must never waver from that path of freedom and democracy. Take their memories, take their dreams, and walk forward shouldering the cause of freedom. Carry it high and proud. They did. And now you must walk forward for them and for our children. Amen.
Corporal Francis Ted Moore, U.S. Marine Corps, please give the reading of General Order 11.
The 30th day of May, 1868, is designated for the purpose of strewing with flowers or otherwise decorating the graves of comrades who died in defense of their country during the late rebellion, and whose bodies now lie in almost every city, village, and hamlet churchyard in the land. In this observance, no form of ceremony is prescribed, but posts and comrades will, in their own way, arrange such fitting services and testimonials of respect as circumstances may permit. We are organized, comrades, as our regulations tell us, for the purpose, among other things, of preserving and strengthening those kind and fraternal feelings which have bound together soldiers, sailors, and Marines who united to suppress the late rebellion. What can aid more to assure this result than cherishing tenderly the memory of our heroic dead, who made their breasts a barricade between our country and its foes? Their soldier lives were the reveille of freedom to a race in chains, and their deaths the tattoo of rebellious tyranny in arms. We should guard their graves with sacred vigilance. All that the consecrated wealth and taste of a nation can add to their adornment and security is but a fitting tribute to the memory of her slain defenders. Let no wanton foot tread rudely on such hallowed grounds. Let pleasant paths invite the coming and going of reverent visitors and fond mourners. Let no vandalism of avarice or neglect, no ravages of time testify to the present or to the coming generations that we have forgotten as a people the cost of a free and undivided republic. If other eyes grow dull, other hands slack, and other hearts cold in the solemn trust, ours shall keep it well as long as the light and warmth of life remain to us. Let us then, at the time appointed, gather around their sacred remains and garland the passionless mounds above them with the choicest flowers of springtime. Let us raise above them the dear old flag they saved from dishonor. Let us, in this solemn presence, renew our pledges to aid and assist those whom they have left among us as a sacred charge upon a nation's gratitude, the soldiers and sailors, widow and orphan. It is the purpose of the Commander-in-Chief to inaugurate this observance with the hope that it will be kept up from year to year, while a survivor of the war remains to honor the memory of his departed comrades. He earnestly desires the public press to lend its friendly aid in bringing to the notice of comrades in all parts of the country in time for simultaneous compliance herewith. Department commanders will use efforts to make this order effective. By order of John A. Logan, Commander-in-Chief.
Now if we could have the Boy Scouts Alligator District to come up here to the front and center. Could you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Honor guard, halt. Left, face. Present, halt.
Let us welcome Bree Bear with the national anthem.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's glass gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight for the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Right, face. Forward, halt.
Let's all welcome Nora Vetter, high school junior, for a special reading.
2 years ago, I visited the Korean Memorial in Washington, D.C., and as I slowly walked past the 19 statues, I was profoundly impacted by the engraved quote, "Freedom is not free." This message has resonated with me as I continue to comprehend the numerous sacrifices that our service men and women make each and every day. Since participating in the Library of Congress's Veterans History Project, I have realized that the military is much more than overseas combat. The service is about camaraderie and selflessness. Recently, I interviewed Steve Stivers, a Bronze Star Brigadier General and current Ohio Congressman, and inquired what courage meant to him. He swiftly replied that courage is the ability to do the right thing in the face of fear and pressure. Those in uniform do not hesitate when confronted with a challenge. Rather, they place others before themselves in order to accomplish the task at hand. On Memorial Day, we honor those who have given their lives so that we may enjoy rights that millions of people around the world are denied. With that in mind, I am grateful for the men and women who are currently serving, the veterans here today, and most importantly, the valiant heroes who have given the ultimate sacrifice for a nation founded on the ideals of patriotism, equality, justice, and freedom.
At this time, I'm adding a few names of service members who are not here with us today the physical way, but in spirit, which I feel is relevant to today's ceremony. Please remain silent while reading of the names. Earl Hodges, U.S. Merchant Marines, World War II and Korean War. William Hale, Colonel, U.S. Army, World War II, D-Day War. Robert Cruz, Sergeant, U.S. Army. Armand Blanchette, U.S. Navy, World War II. Ronell Cook, Petty Officer, U.S. Navy, World War II. Lawrence O'Day, Corporal, U.S. Army, Michigan Action, Korean War, Uncle of Heather Chorus. Tim Timrud, Master Sergeant, U.S. Marine, World War II, Korean War, and Vietnam. Anthony Joseph Maines, U.S. Army, Korean War. James Davis, Petty Officer, U.S. Navy, Vietnam. Michael Halpert, Petty Officer, U.S. Navy. Jim Elson, Captain, U.S. Army. Shane Duffy, Staff Sergeant, U.S. Army, Operation Iraqi Freedom. Brandon Gordon, Specialist, U.S. Army, Operation Enduring Freedom. Mark Scialdo, Staff Sergeant, U.S. Army, Operation Iraqi Freedom and Enduring Freedom. Stephen Taylor Hayes, Specialist, U.S. Army, Operation Enduring Freedom. Austin Ruiz, Lance Corporal, U.S. Marine, son of Nell and Shira. This list grows on a daily basis, so I cannot mention them all. So if you can, please take time after the ceremony to pay your respects to the fallen soldiers throughout the cemetery. You are looking for a specific family military service member, Hodges Memorial staff will happily be able to help you locate them. The Boy Scouts and the JROTC have volunteered on their day off to mark the grounds with the markers and the American flag to help you locate some of these veterans. Special guests here that are with us today, Thelma Hodges, wife of Earl Hodges, Polly Cruz and the Gold Star Mothers of Southwest Florida, the Peter Thomas family, the Ruiz family, Nell and Shira, the Scialdo family, Marshall and Susan, Joan Colosimo, Southwest Florida, Blue Star Mothers of America, his proud mother whose son and daughter is currently serving our country. The Daughters of the American Revolution, Big Cypress chapter, thank you for the kind donations. Mike O'Day, U.S. Army, National Guard, World War II, Distinguished Service Cross Medal recipient. Wayne Smith and Lois Boland, Spirits of 45 and Veterans Military Alliance. Debbie and Sean Lux, Directors of Collier County Honor Flight. We have so many special guests with us today. I cannot add these to the list at this time. But the important guest today is you. That's every one of you that are here today. You are important in this chief's eyes, believe me. And thank you very much for coming. Thank you all. The White Doves of Naples, in honor of Lance Corporal Ruiz, will release the white doves. And I believe a family member is going to be releasing the dove. And that would be April Ruiz.
I am free. Don't grieve for me, for now I am free. I'm following the path God has chosen. You see, I took his hand when I heard him call. I turned my back and left it all. I couldn't stay another day. To laugh, to love, to work, to play. Task left undone must stay that way. If my parting has left the void, then fill it with remembered joys. A friendship shared, a laugh, a kiss. Oh yes, these things I too will miss. Be not burdened with times of sorrow. Look for the sunshine of tomorrow. My life's been full. I've savored much. Good friends, good times, a loved one's touch. Perhaps my time seemed all too brief. Don't lengthen it now with undue grief. Lift up your hearts and peace to thee. God wanted me now. He set me free. In loving memory of Austin, Lance Corporal Austin James Ruiz.
Our first guest speaker for today's ceremony is Congressman Francis Rooney, a successful businessman who brings decades of private sector experience to Washington. Rooney and his family have a long-standing tradition to the public and the community service here in Naples, Florida. Rooney was appointed by Vice President George W. Bush to serve as the U.S. Ambassador to the Vatican. And he has also served on numerous public and private boards, including Naples Community Hospital and the Florida Gulf Coast University Foundation, to name a few. Congressman Rooney is extremely grateful for the hard work and sacrifices of the men and women who served and those who continue to serve our country. That is why he feels taking care of the veterans and active service men and women should be top priority for decision makers in our U.S. government. Rooney promises all the veterans, past and present, he will continue to keep this top priority as long as he serves as our congressman. Rooney and his wife, Kathleen, live in Southwest Florida and have three children. Larry married to Portia, Michael and Kathleen, and one grandson, Beckett, and one granddaughter, Bergen. Let's please give a warm welcome to Congressman Rooney.
I want to thank everyone who's joined us here today to honor and thank our veterans, to thank those in attendance here with us and those who have served but are not here, especially those who have given their lives to protect our freedom. We are here, free, in this great country because of your service. To those who've made the ultimate sacrifice of their lives, we as individuals and as a nation owe you our unending gratitude. The soldier's motto is duty, honor, and country. But there's an important other word to add here, and that's sacrifice. Our soldiers sacrifice a lot to protect us, to be away from home and their family and friends on their deployments, to risk their lives in combat, and to possibly give their lives for our country. We honor them today. Freedom is not free. It has a high cost. It costs money in armaments, planes, etc. But most importantly, the most important cost is in human lives. The lives of our fellow citizens who have volunteered to defend us. These are who we honor and remember today. Our young nation realized right away that projecting strength was the key to freedom in the world. That's why in 1801, we undertook to sail across the Atlantic to take on the Barbary pirates. Our young, impoverished nation was still reeling from the Revolutionary War. Our Constitution was barely 12 years old, and our treasury was depleted. But we took the fight to them and won. And now the words, "to the shores of Tripoli," resonate with all of us. The world knew from then on that the United States was a nation to be reckoned with. Later, reluctantly, when all else had failed, we stepped in to save Europe from German aggression. No other nation could have done it. The Axis powers were rolling over Europe, breaking through the so-called impenetrable Maginot Line. But the nation of "In God We Trust" came through. The Allied Expeditionary Force under General Pershing arrived on the Western Front in the summer of 1918, and by fall had turned things around. At Cantigny, at Chateau Thierry, and at Belleau, the United States saved the day. Unfortunately, only a few sad years later, we were tasked once again to step up and fight German aggression. This time, we had to fight Japan at the same time, after they fired on us 7 December 1941 at Pearl Harbor. By June 1942, things were already heading our way, after Admiral Nimitz's stunning victory at Midway and the Normandy invasion in June 1944 began the final leg of the reconquest of Europe. To show what a commitment this was by our entire nation backing up our troops, in 1945, the United States spent 74% of its entire economy backing the war. Nothing was spared in the United States to defend freedom and support our troops and defeat tyranny. The United States has never shrunk from leadership, as the more recent engagements in Korea and Vietnam, now through Bosnia, Iraq, and Afghanistan. These were all fights we neither sought or needed. But once again, America responded and made the world safe for freedom-loving people everywhere. So we really are the land of the free and the home of the brave. Why? Because of the servicemen and women here and their families and those who've gone before them, who have sacrificed for us, have fought our enemies, have vanquished them, so that our free and decent United States can continue to flourish. No, freedom is not free. It costs lives, it costs families, and it cost our country. In remembering today those who have protected us, those who have defended our freedoms from oppressors, those who have staved off invasion and attack, we do some small justice to them. We honor them and we thank them. Because without our fighters, our veterans, our military service personnel, we would not be free. We would not be here right now. We might not even be speaking English. So, in closing, to all of you here who've done so much, who have made the great sacrifices, and to those who have made the ultimate sacrifice in the service of our country, we thank you. America thanks you. God bless you all, and God bless our United States.
Next, we have something that's very, very special for everyone. It's the presentation of the first annual Homer Hilter's Civilian Patriot Award. Sergeant Kerr, Diana Hilter, along with the Collier County Veterans Council board members, could you please come up? I am taking this moment to mention a true civilian patriot who recently passed away. His name is synonymous throughout the veteran community here in Naples, Florida. The man's name is Homer Hilter. Although he himself has never served in the armed forces, he spent many days and hours supporting the men and women who serve our great country. Homer was an honest man who understood the meaning of the veteran who served and who paid the ultimate sacrifice. The Veterans Council wanted to recognize those civilians who take time to honor our veterans. We emailed out to our different veteran groups and asked a simple question. Who do you know that would deserve the Civilian Patriot Award? Please send me a name and a reason why. I had an overwhelming response, and one person's name stood out above all others. I got the results immediately. Myself and Sergeant Kerr met with Diana Hilter. We told her of an award we would like to give out annually at every Memorial Day ceremony. We'd like to call it the Homer Hilter's Civilian Patriot Award. I did inform her I sent out a survey, and one name was on top of the list. I told her that name. Her eyes lit up. She had a smile from ear to ear. And she said Homer would be so proud to give the council her blessing to give out this annual award. I asked her not to tell the person about the award, so as of this very moment, it will be a surprise. So with that, I'm going to read the letter of appreciation. It's Collier County Veterans Council Homer Hilter's Civilian Patriot Award. This letter of appreciation is for Homer Hilter's annual Civilian Patriot Award. Out of pride, integrity, honor, and respect, and presented May 29, 2017, to Senior Pastor Donald Don Treglone of Naples, Florida, given from the Collier County Veterans Council with the approval of Diana Hilter. We have the distinct pleasure to present the first of its kind award to be annually given during the Collier County Memorial Ceremony. Collier County honorably requested the veteran community to give this award. Pastor Don had an incredible lead and a large family of clergy and military members. I know his abilities will always be a great asset to our heroes and those who have paid the ultimate sacrifice. Our fallen soldier, airmen, our sailor community with honor, pride, and dignity. The Veteran Council has trust in Pastor Don with good reason. He displays a positive impact on everyone he comes in contact with. He has been requested by the chaplain in several of our local veteran speaking events, such as Home Base, Operation Barnabas, and today, Memorial Day ceremony, just to name a few. Every week, the U.S. Marine Corps League holds a luncheon at the Faith Lutheran Church under his care. His work in the veteran community has been recognized. Pastor Don has taken the lead in care packages to our veterans with Operation Faith in Action, which is responsible for the delivery of 75.25 tons of merchandise to the men and women serving our country. My personal experience as the Collier County Veterans Council President personally thanks Pastor Treglow for taking this interest in the veteran communities far and wide. Bravo Zulu. Signed, William Carl. Thank you all. Our second guest speaker for today's ceremony. During his distinguished career of nearly 30 years in the United States Army, Brigadier General retired Ed Dyer commanded tank and infantry units at every level from platoon to division. His numerous command and staff positions included Deputy Commanding General of the 24th Infantry Division at Fort Riley, Kansas, Commander 3rd Army Forward in Iraq in 2 separate occasions, Chief of Crisis Action Planning for the Joint Chiefs of Staff at the Pentagon, including combat assignment in Iraq as part of the Desert Storm campaign. General Dyer is a recipient of numerous awards and decorations, including the Distinguished Service Medal, the Legion of Merit, and the Bronze Star Medal for Valor with Gold Leaf Cluster. A native of Ann Arbor, Michigan, General Dyer holds a Bachelor of Science degree from the United States Military Academy at West Point and a master's degree in engineering from Purdue University. General Dyer is married with 4 children, 2 who are currently serving on active duty, and 7 grandchildren. Let's please give a warm welcome to General Dyer.
Thank you, Chief, for that warm welcome here this morning and that kind introduction. Congressman Rudy, thanks for joining us today, taking time out of your busy schedule to be here and offer us your thoughts on this Memorial Day. And to all of you, thanks for being here today. The turnout today is a tribute to the patriotism and the deep respect that this community holds for our veterans and for our fallen heroes. Good morning. I stand here today simply as a soldier, but unlike those that we honor today, I have the fortunate pleasure of being here with you. You see, there's a difference between Veterans Day that we celebrate in November and Memorial Day that we celebrate today and this weekend. In November, we take time to say thank you to all those Americans, past and present, who have taken some portion of their lives and dedicated it to the service of our country. But today we remember and honor a special group of Americans, ordinary men and women who gave their lives while in service to the country. These men and women share a special heritage, which with today's soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, and Coast Guardmen. If you examine their service, however long or short, whether private or general, you would see that they shared the same values: duty, respect, selfless service, honor, and personal courage. You know, every week, thousands of young Americans, men and women, at entrance stations around the country raise their right hand and swear a solemn oath. I've had the opportunity to administer that oath on dozens of occasions, including to 2 of my own children. I want to take a minute today and I want to recite that oath. And I want each of you to listen very closely to each word. And think about what it would mean to you if you were taking that oath here today. I do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, and that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same. and that I will obey the orders of the President of the United States and the orders of the officers appointed over me according to regulations and the Uniform Code of Military Justice. So help me God. Sometimes it's easy to forget when these young men and women take that oath that they do so knowing full well that one day they may have to give that ultimate sacrifice. To give you some sense of what that means, I want to repeat for you this morning a story told by then Marine Corps Lieutenant General John Kelly, today Secretary of Homeland Security John Kelly, to a gathering of Marine Corps veterans in St. Louis in 2010. Remarkably, General Kelly told this story just 4 days after his own son was killed in combat in Iraq, but he never mentioned that fact. So here's the story. In 2008, two Marines, Corporal Jonathan Yale, 22, and Lance Corporal Jordan Herter, 20, were assuming watch together at the entrance point to a military installation on the outskirts of the city of Ramadi in Iraq. At the time, probably one of the most dangerous cities on the planet. Yale was a poor kid from southwestern Virginia. He supported his wife and baby daughter, along with his mother and his sister, who also lived with him, on his $23,000 a year salary. Herter was a middle-class kid from Long Island. Two kids from completely different worlds, who probably would never have met if they hadn't been thrown together by fate in the military. So you can picture them that evening getting their mission orders from their platoon sergeant. Okay, you two knuckleheads, stand this post. Let no unauthorized personnel or vehicle pass. Are you clear? And you can also picture these two young kids answering their platoon sergeant, rolling their eyes with just a little bit of attitude. We got it, Sarge. As if to say, look, we know what the heck we're doing. So they took their posts. And just a few minutes later, a large blue truck turned the corner and began speeding down the serpentine of Jersey concrete barriers. It stopped right in front of the two Marines and exploded, killing them both. So that's the short story. Now let me expand a little bit. General Kelly knew that there had been some heroism involved in the action that night. And he knew that those two Marines probably deserved some recognition for valor. But there's a rule in our military that in order to award medals for valor, you have to have two eyewitness statements from American service members. There were no American eyewitnesses to that incident that night. So General Kelly took it upon himself to go down and find some of the Iraqi police who had been present at that entry point and interviewed them personally. And to a man, they talked about the heroism of those two Marines. A day or two later, it was discovered that a security camera had in fact survived the blast and had recorded the last 6 seconds of those two Marines' lives. You see the blue truck turn the corner. The two Marines have 5 seconds to live. They take just a moment to contemplate the instructions that they received from their platoon sergeant just minutes before. You see them present their weapons and commence firing nonstop. You see the Iraqi police who are present begin to scatter for cover, some of them having fired a few rounds, some of them running directly past the two Marines, like any normal, rational human being would do. You see the windshield on that truck shatter into shards of glass, killing the terrorist who would like to get by those two Marines and kill their brethren sleeping in the barracks not far away, who at that moment had no idea that their very lives depended on those two Marines standing their grounds. But if they had known, they'd have felt perfectly safe, because they knew that two American service members stood between them and some crazed suicide bomber. The video shows the two Marines stood there. They never moved. They never made a step to step aside. They never even shifted their weight. And then the video goes blank. The two Marines were both awarded the Navy Cross, America's second highest award for valor. The composite actions of these two young men in the face of significant danger are the personification of the words of that oath that I read just a few minutes ago. I do solemnly swear that I will defend. So help me God. These are just two of the countless men and women that we honor today in ceremonies at cemeteries around the country and around the world. In places like Belgium and Iwo Jima, their graves are marked mostly with simple white crosses, or maybe the Star of David, or maybe even a crescent. And hopefully today with a bouquet of flowers and a small American flag. Where they lie is hallowed ground. Now, we often talk about the sacrifice of our men and women in uniform, but as has been mentioned a couple of times this morning, service in the military is a family affair. My daughter, a former Army nurse, and now an Army wife and mother of 4 children, is married to a helicopter pilot. In 2012, she and the kids were living on a military installation in Hawaii, while her husband was deployed flying combat missions in Iraq. As is often the case, she lived on a street with identical sets of quarters, many of them occupied by the wives and families of other pilots in that same unit. On more than one occasion during that deployment, they received news, usually over TV, because they watched that constantly, that one of the aircraft in their husband's unit had crashed, that there were casualties, including fatalities. Immediately, as is the rule, all communications is shut off between the unit and the families. No cell phone calls, no email, no Facebook or FaceTime, until the next of kin can be notified. On those days, you could look down that street and you could see a dozen or so kids playing in the yards, but more subdued than normal because they know something. And you could see the wives of those pilots all sitting on the front porch, waiting for that sedan with the officer in the dress uniform and the chaplain to turn the corner, praying that that sedan would not stop in front of their quarters, but then being devastated to watch the news delivered to one of their best friends. You see, as has been mentioned this morning, the full reality of war hits the soldier, sailor, airman, Marine only when they meet the Gold Star mothers. For those who don't know, Gold Star mothers are those who have given a son or daughter in service to their country. Any veteran who has returned to the families of comrades killed in action know what I talk about. I've had the unfortunate honor of presenting the nation's colors to several of them. And I have watched the colors presented to the wives and mothers of some of my best friends, high school teammates and West Point classmates that I served with for over 25 years. Only then does the true meaning of their deaths in combat strike home. For those men who died like these two Marines, it was usually sudden and hopefully painless. For the men and women who happened to be there to watch, it was just one more of those aspects of combat that you try not to dwell on. But for Gold Star parents, it's a wound that can never heal. So if it's true that those who make the greatest sacrifice reap the greatest rewards, then truly there is a place at the right hand of the Almighty reserved for them today. So let us leave here today remembering the words of President Lincoln 154 years ago outside that small village in southern Pennsylvania. We cannot hallow this ground. The brave men, living and dead, who struggled here have consecrated it, far above our poor power to add or detract. It is, rather, for us to be here dedicated to the great task remaining before us. That from these honored dead, we take increased devotion to that cause for which they gave the last full measure of devotion. That we highly resolve that these dead shall not have died in vain, and that this nation, under God, shall have a new birth of freedom, and that government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from this earth. Thank you all for being here today to remember these American heroes, and I wish you all a happy and peaceful Memorial Day. Thank you.
At this time, I would like the Gold Star family pastor, Steve Hayes, and his wife, Kim, with a special reading, Psalm 27, verses 3 and 4, and Psalm 23, verse 6.
Our son, Specialist Stephen Taylor Hayes, was a combat veteran of the war in Afghanistan in 2009 and 2010. He was proud to serve as an airborne infantryman with the 82nd Airborne Division of the U.S. Army in the hostile territory of Shahjoy District, Zabul Province, Afghanistan. After a difficult deployment and a parachute jump accident when he returned, he developed post-traumatic stress disorder and functional traumatic brain injury. He was a loving father of 2 little girls, super funny, organized, but he was often resistant to help. And this past August 1st, 2016, at the age of 25, he passed away accidentally, a casualty of the unseen wounds he sustained while serving.
If you are a veteran who is putting your life or your family at risk because of PTSD or other unseen wounds of war, or if you know someone who is struggling, please reach out for support. Those of us at Collier County Veterans Council will do our best to use our network to get you the support you need. There are numerous resources, but you have to be willing.
Since our loss, we've been graciously welcomed into this beautiful Gold Star community. We've been honored to meet many families whose sons, daughters, brothers, and sisters have paid the ultimate price for our freedoms. As the Brigadier General Dyer so eloquently shared, we look to Memorial Day specifically to honor the fallen who did not live to be honored on the other special days of recognition.
Dealing with these losses could be too much to bear. Kim and I draw strength from our faith. The Bible affirms the reality of life after death in both the Old and New Testaments. During a discussion about the resurrection of the dead, Jesus quoted from the Old Testament and said, "Have you not read what was said to you by God? I am the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. He is not God of the dead, but of the living."
King David expressed the same confidence in the Psalms. "Though an army encamp against me, my heart shall not fear. Though war arise against me, yet I will be confident. One thing I have asked of the Lord, that will I seek after, that I may dwell in the house of the Lord all the days of my life."
It is this same confidence that gives us strength as a recent Gold Star family. It is our prayer that these verses will bring you comfort as well.
Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever.
Today we have a very special treat for you, the reading and folding of the American flag. The reading is by Staff Sergeant Wilfredo Vasquez, U.S. Army retired. Folds 1 and 2 members of the United States Coast Guard stationed Fort Myers Beach, inspected by Sergeant Kirk.
Have you ever attended a memorial service or a funeral of a veteran? You may have seen a beautiful and very moving flag folding ceremony performed with elegant precision. Every movement has a special meaning, often pointing to our spiritual roots as a nation and the principle it was founded on. At a military event, the flag folding ceremony honors the soldiers and demonstrates the respect for his or hers family, especially in the moment when the fully folded flag is presented to a close relative of the veteran being honored. But have you ever wondered what is the meaning of each fold? Let's explore. The first fold is a symbol of life. The second fold is for the belief in eternal life. The third fold is an honor and the remembrance of a veteran departing the ranks who has gave a portion of his or her life for the defense to our country and to attain peace throughout the world. The fourth fold stands for our weaker nature, our American citizen trusting in God, and to Him we trust to times of peace and as well as of war and the divine guidance. The fifth fold is a tribute to America and the word of Stephen Descartes. Our country, in dealing with our countries, may she always be right, but still, it's our country, right or wrong. The sixth fold is where our heart lies. It's with our flag that we pledge our allegiance to the flag and the republic for which we stand. The seventh fold is a tribute to our armed forces, for it's the armed forces that protect our country, the flag against enemies, whether domestic or foreign. The eighth fold is a tribute to the one who entered in the valley of the shadow of death, that we might see the light of day, and to honor our mothers, for whom it flies on Mother's Day. The ninth fold is a tribute to womanhood. It's thought for their faith, love, loyalty, devotion, that the character of the men and women who have made this country great have been molded. The 10th fold is a tribute to the fathers who He has given His son and His daughters for the defense of our country since he or she was first born. The 11th fold, in the eyes of the Hebrew Jewish citizen, represents the lower portion of the seal of King David and King Solomon. In their eyes, and the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. The 12th fold, in the eye of the Christian, represents an emblem of eternity and glorified. In their eyes, God, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. The 13th fold. When the flag is completely folded, some consider the 13th fold. The stars are utmost remaining. Us of our nation and our motto, in God we trust.
Department of Ocean Toxics Nation. We would accept this one.
Two American flags were just presented. One was for those that were enabled here, is what I'm trying to get to. One of those that are presented is to Polly Cruz to represent all the Gold Star mothers throughout the nation. She accepted the flag. The second flag was presented to United States Air Force disabled veteran Sarah Cox to represent the country's post 9/11 veterans that paid the ultimate sacrifice. We thank them both for accepting the flags. We now will recognize the presentation of the wreaths. Veteran Service Officer Eddie Hartnick and Brigadier General Dyer will be representing the ultimate sacrifices of all wars wreath. The second wreath will be United States Coast Guard Petty Officer Kopeka and Petty Officer Doreno, with Congressman Rooney representing all of the MIA and POW flag, followed by the living historians and displayed in which will be displayed of different periods of war our country endured, with amazing grace performed by the bagpipe. Let us now welcome Bree Bear to sing Heaven Needs a Hero.
I came by today to see you. Thought I had to let you know. If I knew the last time that I held you was the last time I'd have held you, I'd never let go. It keeps me awake at night, wondering, lying in the dark, just asking why. I've always been told you won't be called home until it's your time. I guess heaven was needing a hero, somebody just like you. Brave enough to stand up for what you believe and to follow it through. When I try to make it make sense in my follow it through. When I try to make it make sense in my mind, the only conclusion I come to is that heaven was needed a hero like you. Yes, heaven was needed a hero like you.
That was beautiful. Staff Sergeant Vasquez, please give the reading of the fallen soldier. Staff Sergeant Brian Sorrells will be on one knee throughout the reading, so please take your stations.
The fallen soldier's creed. Or don't you wait for me, the land of the free. When it was time for me to fall, it was my country's call. It was for the land that I loved and gave my all. The land I loved, I did freely give. In her freedom and her courage, I will continue to live. I will never have what others have. It was never meant to be. But I made the sacrifice for the call of liberty. Have your own normal lives to live, and that is the way it should be. And when you have a neutral time, please pause and think of me.
Forward. Oh. Sergeant Robert McDonald, U.S. Army Corps, retired World War II veteran, please play taps.
I'm blowing taps for all veterans, dead and alive.
Pastor Treglow, please lead us in benediction.
Today is a day of remembering. We stand in honor of them. We walk in their path of duty, remembering the cost and holding in our hearts the cause of freedom. We remember today, Memorial Day, our veterans. May the Lord bless us and our nation. May the Lord make his face shine upon each of us and lift up his countenance upon us. May the Lord look upon us with his favor and grant us his peace. Amen.
Amen.
Sergeant Frank Kerr, retired colors.
Head, head, move. Forward, move.
Time. Move. That's it. Move. Center. Hey. Retreat. Color. Forward. Hey. Forward. Hold.
In conclusion to today's ceremony, I would like everyone to turn to the last page of the flyer and notice all volunteers that have worked hard to get this to public service. The Veteran Council members, various groups and organizations gave a lot of their valued time and respect to this ceremony. I want to make two honorable mentions before we close. My first is to hosted location manager, Seth. Thank you for keeping the tradition alive and well here at Hodges Funeral Home and Memorial Gardens. After the event is a barbecue, which has been part of a tradition for the last 6 years, in case you were not aware of it. It's done by the memory of Ronald E. Cook, World War II Navy veteran, whose family will always remember, never forget, and let the name live on. I suggest earlier walking through the cemetery, take and pay some respects to our fallen soldiers, airmen, and sailors. Last year at the ceremony, a veteran in poor health asked me if I knew anyone who could plan out his final steps in life so nobody in his family has to have that burden. My heart sank, but the reality is this. We all need to plan it sometime, but doing it now is a blessing. The ceremony is only a service. I am only a host, but there are men and women working here to assist you for those personal needs. Now let's go in peace and enjoy the freedoms that our fallen heroes have provided for us. And make sure you grab a water before you leave. They have plenty on station here. Thank you for attending today. God bless you and your families. God bless our troops, and God bless America.